Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping right into a really fascinating and honestly kind of baffling corner of the internet today.
Baffling is definitely the right word for it.
Right. Because forget the massive, heavily produced mainstream influencers for a second.
The ones with the giant teams and the TR firms.
Exactly. Today, we're exploring the gritty world of internet microecosystems. Specifically, we're looking at the 15-year career of an online gaming creator known as DarkSydePhil.
Or DSP for short.
DSP, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're looking at the incredibly intense, totally symbiotic relationship he shares with a very dedicated community of his own critics.
Right, and they actually call themselves detractors.
Detractors.
Yes, and it is quite the phenomenon. We're looking at a massive collection of material today for this. We have transcripts from years of YouTube commentary.
Hundreds of hours of unedited raw streams.
Hundreds of hours, and a highly combative live interview that really brings this whole dynamic to a head.
And the mission here isn't to just recap niche internet drama for you. We want to look past those surface-level arguments and really explore the psychology of online fame.
Because it's a completely alternate economy of attention.
It really is. We're looking at narrative control and what happens when an audience tunes into a creator not to cheer them on.
But to meticulously document every single flaw.
Every single one. Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even begin with DSP's perception of himself versus how the internet actually sees him?
Well, that core conflict of image is exactly the foundation we have to build on. If you listen to DSP talk about his legacy, he views himself as an absolute internet pioneer.
He really does.
He genuinely claims to be the inventor of the unedited improv Let's Play format on YouTube.
Like he laid the brickwork for modern gaming content.
In his mind, yes. But if you look at the internet at large, the view is entirely different.
Night and day.
Completely. The broader culture sees someone who refuses to adapt, refuses to edit, and just flat out rejects constructive criticism.
He is essentially what internet culture calls a lolcow.
Oh, lolcow, exactly.
Which is a creator who is continuously milked by the internet for laughs.
Usually because of their own stubbornness.
Or just a total lack of self-awareness. And the raw streams give us the perfect example of this massive disconnect.
They really do.
There's this specific video from a detractor who goes by the name Fantastic Marisan.
Oh, the Game of the Year edit.
Yes. This creator decided to take DSP's 2021 Game of the Year video.
Which, by the way, was a grueling 1 hour and 45-minute, completely unedited live stream.
Right. And this detractor decided to professionally edit it. Not to help DSP out, but just prove a point about the sheer lack of quality control.
The meticulousness of that edit is staggering when you think about the psychology behind it.
It's wild.
The editor went through and manually removed over 123 solos, lip smacks, and throat clears.
Just to pause on that for a second.
Yeah.
123
Yeah.
in a single video.
Right. Think about the intense dedication it takes to sit through nearly 2 hours of raw, unpolished footage just to catalog and delete every single vocal pick.
It's almost obsessive.
It highlights the concept of parasocial hatred. The dedication of a detractor often rivals
or even exceeds.
Exactly, exceeds the dedication of a super fan. They are paying a much closer attention to his content than he is.
Oh, absolutely, because it wasn't just the audio they had to fix in that video. The editor had to completely swap out the visual footage, too.
Because of the menu screen.
Because of the menu screen. During DSP's original video, while he was passionately reviewing these top games of the year, the gameplay footage he chose to show was just a massive, unedited section of himself navigating a game's menu screen.
He literally called it a menu quest on stream.
A menu quest.
Yeah.
And he just laughed it off.
Instead of, doing a second take.
Or editing in some actual B-roll.
And what's really telling is that DSP's actual game picks weren't out of the ordinary at all.
No, they were totally normal.
His top 3 were fairly standard for the industry that year. He had Resident Evil Village at number 1.
Halo Infinite at number 2.
And Hades at number 3. So the opinions themselves weren't controversial.
Not at all.
It's the completely clunky, unprofessional delivery that draws the critics in. It's his refusal to meet the basic standards of modern content creation while simultaneously demanding the respect of a top-tier creator.
Which brings up a comparison that the critics constantly make. They compare DSP to Tommy Wiseau.
Yes, the director of The Room.
Right. And just like Wiseau with his movie, DSP's content is consumed entirely for the unintentional comedy.
What's fascinating here is the psychological phenomenon of ironic consumption.
Break that down for us.
Well, Tommy Wiseau set out to make a serious, meaningful melodrama. He took his work incredibly seriously, but the audience watches it purely to laugh at the sheer ineptitude of it.
We watch it because it's bad.
Exactly. And when Wiseau finally realized people were laughing at him, he eventually tried to pivot. He started calling it a black comedy, pretending he was in on the joke the whole time.
But DSP operates in a very similar space, just without the pivot.
It never pivots. He takes his legacy incredibly seriously.
He demands respect as an industry pioneer. Yet there is an entire ecosystem of thousands of people watching him, not for his gaming skills.
But for the daily train wreck.
And he seems completely in denial about why those view counts are ticking up.
It's a complete disconnect between the creator's intent and the audience's reception. He wants to be revered, but they want a mock.
Which brings us to the actual mechanics of how this detractor ecosystem operates. It is honestly a masterclass in hyperfixation.
It really is.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The level of scrutiny is off the charts. The detractors archive every breath this man takes.
Every mispronunciation.
Every drop of a controller, every weird food take is documented, time-stamped, and debated. I want to talk about the Pizza Hut incident.
Oh, the pizza review.
Because I think it perfectly encapsulates this bizarre microanalysis.
It really is a bizarre piece of unintentional physical comedy. DSP decided to review a Pizza Hut grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza live on his stream.
Right, but he waited 15 minutes after the delivery arrived before he actually started filming.
15 minutes.
So right off the bat, before he even takes a bite, he's complaining that the pizza is cold and nasty.
Naturally.
Then, instead of just eating it, he decides to examine the crust. He starts dissecting this stuffed crust on camera.
Pulling it apart with his fingers.
Until the structural integrity completely gives out. The pizza literally disintegrates in his hands while he complains that it's too greasy, flat, and doesn't have any sauce.
And the grand finale of this review is when he gives his final verdict. He declares he's giving it a 3 out of 5.
But as he says this,
He holds up 2 fingers to the camera.
just 2 fingers.
There is a palpable pause as he realizes his mistake, and then he awkwardly unfurls a 3rd finger to correct himself.
It's such a minor, perfectly human error. Anyone could accidentally hold up the wrong number of fingers.
Of course.
If you or I did that, we'd just laugh. But in this micro-ecosystem, that 2-second moment is clipped, saved, analyzed, and memed into oblivion.
Forever.
But I have to ask, why does he give them so much ammunition? If he knows they're watching his hands, why do a live, unedited food review in the first place?
Because he fundamentally misunderstands what his audience wants. He thinks he's providing authentic, off-the-cuff lifestyle content.
He views the lack of editing as a badge of honor.
A sign of being genuine, but the detractors view it as a goldmine for highlighting his incompetence. And that level of intense scrutiny leads us to the most absurd battleground we see in the commentary transcripts.
The banana song debate.
The banana song.
Oh, wow, yes. This is truly a bizarre case study in internet stubbornness.
It really is.
Years ago, during a playthrough of Donkey Kong 64, DSP briefly sang an improvised 10-second song. The detractors isolated this clip.
As they do.
Right. And they claimed the lyrics he sang were, "Squeeze the peel, it comes in denim."
It comes in denim.
Which is completely nonsensical.
And therefore hilarious to the internet.
But DSP furiously claims he never said that. He insists to this day that he actually sang, "In comes the nana."
The nana.
Now, I've listened to the audio, and it genuinely sounds like he says denim. But why does he care?
That's the real question.
It's a 10-second clip from years ago. Why not just say, yeah, I mumbled something weird and let the meme die?
And this is where we have to look at the psychology of yielding to the internet. For a creator who feels constantly under siege, admitting even the slightest fault or mistake feels like a massive defeat.
Even over a song about a banana.
Especially over that. He believes that if he concedes a meaningless 10-second joke, he is validating the detractors. So instead of laughing it off, he goes on the offensive.
He calls his critics mentally ill and stupid for obsessing over it.
He actually plays the audio on stream, claiming it clearly proves his point, while his own chat overwhelmingly disagrees with him.
By fighting it so aggressively, he is effectively pouring gasoline on the fire.
He provides the exact reaction they are looking for.
He takes a fleeting, completely forgettable moment and elevates it into a years-long battle over objective reality. Because he won't let it go, it becomes a core piece of internet lore.
Exactly. It illustrates his fundamental inability to control his own narrative. He tries to force the internet to accept his version of reality through sheer repetition and hostility.
But the internet operates by consensus.
If the crowd decides you said denim, fighting it only makes the crowd yell louder.
That stubbornness over a 10-second joke is funny, but it becomes a massive liability when he steps out of his own chat room and onto a larger stage.
The broader battles for his reputation.
Right. Let's look at the Side-Scroller's interview.
This was a highly anticipated event in this community. DSP agreed to do a live, combative interview with the Side-Scrollers podcast, hosted by Craig and featuring Keemstar.
And the goal, supposedly, was for DSP to finally put all the Detractor rumors to rest in a neutral environment.
But it was an absolute disaster for him.
A train wreck. Craig confronts DSP with what he calls mountains of evidence regarding some of the biggest controversies surrounding his channel.
The most prominent one being the mobile game.
Yes. The long-standing allegation that DSP spends massive amounts of money, we're talking potentially tens of thousands of dollars, on a mobile game called WWE Champions.
This mobile game saga is a massive pillar of the Detractor lore. The critics didn't just guess he was playing this game. They engaged in some serious digital forensics.
They cross-referenced screen names.
They tracked guild affiliations within the game.
They monitored the times this specific account was pulling high-level characters.
And then matched those exact times to moments when DSP was off-stream or taking breaks.
It's basically open-source intelligence gathering, but applied to a mobile wrestling game.
It is. And the reason it matters is because DSP's entire stream model relies heavily on daily tips and donations from his audience.
He frequently talks about his financial struggles.
So, if he is secretly dumping tens of thousands of dollars into a mobile game, that completely shatters the narrative he uses to generate income.
Precisely. So when confronted with this incredibly detailed trail of evidence on the Side-Scroller's interview, DSP's stance is complete denial.
He flat out denies the account is his.
He claims he is the victim of a 15-year, highly organized hate campaign meant to frame him.
But Craig doesn't just let it go. He asks DSP for proof.
Right. He says, hey, you have your phone right there. Just open the App Store, show us your screen, and prove the account isn't tied to your phone.
It would take 5 seconds to clear your name.
But DSP flat out refuses.
He cites privacy concerns. He claims that showing his phone screen carries the risk of being doxxed.
Having his private personal information or IP address leaked online by the trolls.
He just stonewalls.
Deny, deny, deny. But wait, this is the part that genuinely baffles me. During this same interview, Keemstar offers him a highly lucrative deal.
Yes, a podcast deal.
He offers DSP $50,000 just to start.
50 grand.
Right. Arguing it would rebrand him, get him out of his daily streaming rut, and potentially make him millions.
And DSP rejects it outright.
How does a guy who constantly complains about financial ruin turn down a guaranteed 50 grand? How does he justify that to himself, let alone his audience?
It is a fascinating look at pride versus pragmatism. DSP felt the initial outreach from Keemstar leading up to the interview was disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
Yes. He is so entrenched in his defensive posture, so determined to be respected as an independent pioneer, that he turns down a massive career lifeline because it comes from someone he views as part of the internet drama machine.
He genuinely believes that maintaining his total independence is better.
Even if it means staying trapped in this cycle of daily streaming to a highly critical audience, he thinks that is better than participating in the broader YouTube culture on someone else's terms.
It's almost like he's chosen to be the king of a very hostile island, rather than just be a regular citizen on the mainland.
That is a great way to put it.
And that overwhelming desire to tell his story completely on his own terms leads to the absolute climax of this whole saga, the canceled Mike Klum documentary.
Right. Mike Klum is a documentary filmmaker who recently gained a lot of notoriety for producing a deeply exposing, unflattering documentary on another fallen internet star, Boogie2988.
Following the massive success of that film, Klum announces he is turning his lens to DSP.
And initially, DSP is totally on board.
He hypes this up on his daily streams as his swan song. He tells his audience that this is going to be his definitive history. He's finally going to prove the detractors wrong.
Show his true life and clear his name once and for all.
He even talks about how Klum flew out, came over to his house, they had a lovely dinner, and Klum met his wife, Kat.
Which is a massive deal in this community. DSP is notoriously private about his wife. She hasn't been a public part of his internet presence for years.
But to build hype for this upcoming documentary, he actually brings Kat back on his live stream for the first time in 5 years.
It really seemed like he was finally opening the doors, letting his guard down, and letting the light in.
But then, almost as quickly as it started, he pulls the plug. DSP goes live and abruptly announces the documentary is canceled.
No film, no swan song. It's just over.
The reasons he gives on stream are vague, but very familiar if you follow his content. He blames the toxic climate created by his trolls,
He says the stress is just too much.
that the detractors are ruining the opportunity by harassing the filmmaker, and that he has personal stuff going on behind the scenes.
He frames the cancellation entirely as a protective measure against the internet hate machine.
But if you listen to what the critics are saying, there's a very different theory floating around. The detractors don't buy the stress excuse for a second.
Not at all.
Their theory is that DSP initially thought he could control Mike Klum.
He thought because they had a nice dinner, he could guide the narrative and get a highly produced puff piece that just repeated his talking points.
But Klum's track record shows he goes for unbiased, sometimes brutal honesty in his films.
The detractor theory suggests that during or shortly after that dinner, DSP realized Klum wasn't just there to point a camera and nod.
Klum was actually going to investigate the finances,
He's going to look around the house.
ask the hard questions about the mobile game spending, and demand actual transparency.
I'm giving an unfiltered professional look into his home and his spending habits would completely shatter the illusion he has meticulously maintained for his donors.
Because the entire financial engine of his channel relies on the illusion that he is perpetually on the brink of ruin and desperately needs their daily support just to keep the lights on.
Exactly. If the documentary aired and showed a comfortable lifestyle, or officially revealed the truth about the alleged mobile game spending, the daily donations might dry up overnight.
So the theory goes he pulled the plug to protect his bottom line, using the trolls as a very convenient prepackaged scapegoat.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights a profound reality about modern digital life. Content creators are fighting a losing battle when they try to rigidly control a narrative that the internet has already crowdsourced.
You can't just assert your own reality.
No, you cannot simply assert a different reality, whether it's about a 10-second song, a mobile game account, or your financial status, and expect the internet to just comply.
The audience has the receipts.
They have the timestamps, the cross-references. Transparency, or at the very least a shred of self-awareness, is the only currency that actually works in these situations.
And that is precisely what DSP refuses to offer.
Refuses.
So what does this all mean? If you are listening to this, you might be wondering why you should care about a niche gamer and his very angry audience.
It's a valid question.
Well, the DSP saga is the ultimate case study of internet culture. It shows us that ignoring feedback, refusing to evolve, and constantly fighting your audience over every little detail doesn't just make you fade away into obscurity.
Bizarrely, it can accidentally create an entirely new, highly dedicated audience.
They just happen to be an audience watching for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
You don't necessarily get the fans you want, you get the fans you cultivate through your actions.
And that brings up a really provocative thought to leave you with today.
Let's hear it.
Consider the bizarre, almost symbiotic dependency between the lol cow and the detractor. If DSP vanished from the internet tomorrow, these thousands of critics would lose their daily entertainment.
The entire ecosystem they've built would collapse.
But if the critics vanished, would the creator still have an audience at all?
Oh, why?
Or are the haters actually the primary engine keeping the channel relevant and financially alive? It is a dark sort of codependency.
It really makes you wonder who is actually serving who at the end of the day. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's a strange, sometimes frustrating corner of the web, but there is so much to learn from how these ecosystems function. Keep questioning the narratives you see online. Look a little closer at the communities surrounding your favorite creators. And we will catch you on the next deep dive.
For well over a decade, one streamer has been this absolute lightning rod for criticism, a walking case study in controversy, and honestly, an endless content machine. Just, maybe not in the way he actually intended. So today, we're diving deep into the strange and truly fascinating world of DarkSydePhil.
This quote right here, this is the key to understanding everything. So Phil was filming a best of the year video, and he accidentally played footage of himself just clicking through menus. Instead of doing another take, he just sighed and moved on. And that philosophy, that it is what it is commitment to the absolute bare minimum, is the single biggest criticism of his entire career. It's the lens we have to look through for everything that comes next.
So to really unpack this whole phenomenon, we're going to look at 4 key parts. First, we'll look at his completely unedited style. Second, we'll get into the actual hard data on what gets left in his videos. Third, we've got to talk about the infamous banana song, which is a perfect case study in contradiction. And finally, we're going to ask the big question. Is this guy a joke? Or is he maybe the Tommy Wiseau of gaming? Okay, let's start with this brilliant little experiment. Another creator decided to do the one thing Phil himself never will. Take one of his raw streams and just apply some basic, standard editing. The goal wasn't to change what he was saying, but just to see how much better the whole experience could be with just a tiny bit of effort. A YouTuber named Fantastic Mr. Sam took a nearly 2-hour video. It was DSP's unscripted list of his best games of 2021 and decided to give it the kind of professional polish that has been missing from Phil's channel for, well, over a decade. So this is what he was starting with, the before state. The audio was super quiet and you could hear this constant background hum. There were these long, awkward pauses, just dead air. The gameplay footage he used was raw from the stream, which included his famous menu quests. And of course, there was the constant talk about tips and him just repeating the same points over and over again.
Look, this whole thing wasn't really an attack. It was more of a demonstration. It basically quantified all the professional standards that most streamers learn in their first few months on the job, but that DarkSydePhil has actively chosen to ignore. It was asking a really simple question. What if he just tried? And what's so cool is that the experiment didn't just spit out a better video at the end. It gave us cold, hard data on what makes a DSP stream, well, a DSP stream. Check this out. This is literally the editor's checklist. Every single verbal tick, all the okays, the ums, the so's, they were all cut. Every distracting noise, the snorts, the lip smacks, the throat clearing, gone. Repetitive monologues were tightened up, and every single mention of monetization was just completely stripped out. So, what was the grand total from that one video? 123. 123 distracting verbal tics and noises were edited out. That's more than one unnecessary sound per minute. It just shows you how much unfiltered noise you're getting in the raw product. But the DarkSydePhil phenomenon isn't just about low-effort content, right? It's about the totally perplexing persona behind it all. And nothing, I mean nothing, illustrates the contradictions in that persona better than the now legendary banana song saga. So it all started during a Donkey Kong 64 stream. Out of absolutely nowhere, Phil just spontaneously sings this short, really strange song about a banana. For him, it was just a weird throwaway moment. But for his audience, it became this iconic piece of DSP lore. Okay, and this is where it gets truly fascinating. For years, anytime his audience brought it up, his response was always the same, just total denial. He'd insist, I don't know the banana song. Then one day, he finally decided to address it by playing the clip. But instead of just owning it, he claimed everyone misheard him, that he actually said, "In comes the Nana," and that this memory shared by thousands of people was something they had all collectively made up. He even dropped this incredible line, twisting a classic movie quote to just dismiss the whole thing. It really shows you a core tactic of his: minimize, deny, and gaslight. By treating his own history like it's no big deal, he tries to control a story that, let's be honest, got away from him a long, long time ago. And all of this leads us to our final section, where we're going to try to make sense of it all. After all these years, 2 main theories have really popped up to try and explain the DarkSydePhil phenomenon. So, is he a genius or is he a joke? The Andy Kaufman theory suggests that this is all just a brilliant decade-plus-long performance art piece. You know, that the DarkSydePhil we see is an intentionally awful character designed to get a rise out of people. But then there's the Tommy Wiseau theory, which says he's just an inept creator who, only after realizing people were laughing at him, decided to lean into it and pretend it was all on purpose from the start. Now, for anyone who might not know, Tommy Wiseau is the guy who created the movie The Room, which is widely called one of the worst and funniest movies ever made. He meant for it to be a serious drama. It was only after audiences were laughing their heads off that he suddenly started claiming it was a black comedy and that he meant for it to be funny. The parallel here is pretty uncanny. So what does Phil himself think about the comparison? Well, during one stream, he read a comment calling him the Tommy Wiseau of gaming, and he reacted with his signature mix of disbelief and indignation. And his reaction, like it always does, just adds another layer to the puzzle. Which leaves us with the one big unanswered question. Who is the real DarkSydePhil? Is he some kind of avant-garde comedian playing the long game? Is he an incompetent creator who just stumbled backwards into a cult following? Or is he just a guy who built an entire career by doing the absolute bare minimum? The answer might be the one thing he's never, ever given us: a piece of well-edited, self-aware content